Like,
that
you're just
extent of
petty and ridiculous. Yeah. He had a thing. He had to make a point of like talking about me behind my back and talking to my friends who, total bully.
Yeah.
But just silly. You're just like, how old are we? Like,
Literally.
really? You haven't, I mean, that's the thing. It's like those kind of like silly kind of soap opera type dramas where you're like,
in high school.
We're in paradise.
Yeah.
And this is what you're going to focus on.
Yeah.
I mean, I sometimes go to places that are like really amazing and gorgeous and, you know, a slice of paradise, and then the people are fucking rotten. You're like, what? Is this not enough?
Yeah.
Just
like, maybe not.
Yeah. Anyway, your story.
Anyway, it sounds similar, but this was, so this could be an example of like a very gendered expression of a localism and how it feels kind of on both sides of the coin. So this, again, a place that I've been surfing frequently over the years since I've been there and have lived a few times for short stints, right? And so I know who the actual locals of this place are. Right. I know who the gringo self-proclaimed locals are and the Costa Rican locals, right? So when you don't recognize someone in the water, you know they're either a tourist or, you know, you kind of want to know who their story is, right? So this guy rocks up on his like pretty fancy, brand new looking like motorbike. He probably just bought a piece of land with a house or whatever. And so he's like God's gift right now. And he's just learning to surf also, which is the kicker, which is the best part about it all. So he paddles out, you know, just like owning shit in his mind. And just, zero respect for any sort of taking turns, priority, whatever. And that day specifically, there weren't very many Costa Rican locals in the water, or else I'm sure they would have regulated and just been like, who is this joke of a guy? But that day, it was just a couple of us. I think another girlfriend was there with me and whatever. He was trying to do the dominant thing of just, again, paddling always past you, sitting a little bit deeper just because he thought he could, wiping out on a lot of waves, you know. So whatever. Yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to go. And to make a point, not like, oh, I'm going to go for fun. Like, I'm going to go because you're being a complete ass. Right. So whatever, I dropped it on his wave. I surfed the whole thing. He was kind of behind me for some of it and then kicked out or whatever. And then we get back out there and he's like, oh, you owe me a kiss for that wave.
Ew.
That was his response to that.
That is disgusting.
Literally disgusting. I like wanted to vomit in my mouth. But those are those
you
moments.
Should have been vomited right in his face. Ugh.
And those are those moments that you're just like, whoa, I'm fully shocked by this expression that is coming at me. I don't really know how to respond. There's so many dynamics happening here where first you think you're a local because you own a piece of land and have a fancy motorbike. Second, you think you can say something like that to me because I'm a woman in the water and therefore you just have every right to say creepy, ridiculous things like that. You know, so all the kind of dynamics there, me kind of exerting some sort of right to a wave, you know, so all the ways that we're negotiating our politics in the water based on on who we are and where we're sitting in the world, you know?
Right. It's so interesting because, you know, my friends who don't surf, they're like, wow, you surf. It must be like so peaceful and it's like so spiritual and zen. And I'm just like, all the junk that you see on land and all the people stuff, the human stuff, it's, you know, it's just, there's a potential for this beautiful experience in the water. And I'm grateful every day that I surf. Like, you know, like, my God, I'm so happy that this is like part of my reality in this life. Like, how lucky are we? Yeah. You know, everything about it. But then, you know, there's definitely all this other stuff that you have to wade through. And it's just interesting. It's really interesting because there is no law of the land, right? It's very arbitrary and it's very arbitrary also to where you are and the community that lives there. And I find New York really interesting because everyone, for the most part, is a transplant, right? And even those of us who were born and raised here, like myself, you know, like you know, there's our access to the water is touch and go, or you know, whatever. Everyone's experience is different, as opposed to somewhere maybe in Australia or California where people grow up surfing and it's, you know, in their environment. Yeah. So you have a lot of different people in the water here with different levels of experience, different coming from different places. and without any kind of rule book, or like, I wish they even just had that sign that you go, some of the beaches that you go to around the world, where it's just like, this is what you do, don't do this, and
we're seeing that more and more.
Yeah, I mean, we really need that here in New York, because I think even those basic things are not, So I think it's an interesting kind of microcosm of what's happening in the world, in that there's so much flux. Like, there are a lot more travelers, a lot more, because of the Instagram and the way people can access a lot of places because of technology. Like, there's not this sense of pioneering. It's okay, this is, I can go to that specific break, I can see there are this restaurants, I could stay here if I go to, there's so many ways to kind of like safely access all these places that maybe before felt inaccessible to people. So you have a lot of dynamics in the water that are, I think maybe unprecedented or unprecedented at this scale. And it's just changed so quickly. So I think it's really interesting, the work that you're doing, and then also to discover that conference, if you can briefly, I know you have to go, but the conference that you were talking about that happened in San Diego, and the women, Krista Comer?
Krista Comer was there. She had a keynote speech, which was beautiful. She kind of painted a really interesting and broad picture of the work that women surfers are doing related to equity, equality, and freedom for women in surfing. Around this movement that's being called surfeminist.
Right.
And so she was a co-founder, along with Corey Schumacher, of the Institute for Women Surfers. And that, I believe, is probably nearing 8 or 9 years since it was founded. And it's created this umbrella network of activists and academics of women surfers who are doing different projects around the world and creating new alliances and people collaborating, and it just feels infinite, the amount of creativity that's coming out of these
and
encounters.
Then Schumacher, tell me about her background.
So Corey Schumacher is a 3-time world longboard champion. She's now on as a council member in local politics in Carlsbad, California.
Amazing.
And she was also the first out lesbian woman surfer, sponsored professional surfer. And had a lot of backlash, like losing her sponsorship in those days and everything.
Right.
So those two co-founders of this Institute for Women Surfers. Corey has since stepped back, since she's obviously gone on to more political pursuits, but her legend lives on. And it's, at this conference in San Diego, it was, I'm blanking on the full name, it was something like Liminal Spaces, the Culture and History of Surfing. But it was organized through the Center for Surf Research and also a Department of Indigenous Studies in San Diego State University.
Wow.
So it brought together academics, people from the surf industry, to have sort of these broad conversations. So people were presenting their work. They were talking about different cultural moments in surfing history. And what was really cool is that so many women who are a part of this Institute for Women Surfers were presenting panels related to, male privilege in surfing, related to colonialism in surfing, and really centering those conversations in a place that they're often sidelined or not even included. So it was a powerful moment, and a lot of it has come out of the work of people who were contributors to this book called The Critical Surf Studies Reader.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I've co-authored an article there on decolonizing sustainable surf tourism. So again, applying this kind of critical perspective to the sustainable surf tourism work being done. And a lot of other people contributing to that volume were present at this conference as well. So the critical perspective has definitely made its way into some of the more mainstream conversations in surf studies.
So exciting. It's an exciting time. I think these conversations are really important and interesting to see how maybe those conversations had about surfing can also resonate to issues on land.
Completely.
Changing the model, especially, because we're talking about something that's inherently can pertain to environmental concerns, but also it's a fluid environment, and everything that word means, and how we can kind of like recalibrate how we kind of model things, because it's something based in the water. And but anyway, I can go. I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours, and it was so great to meet you when I did, and sharing waves with you. It was just like the stoke was instant. Like when you came out, and just the support And like that lineup, when there were women in the lineup, it literally, it almost felt like the molecules of the water changed.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case, you know, when you're in surf environments with other women. But for the most part, I do find that it's very supportive and you know, and you meet great people, and it really sticks. And and whether it's because of solidarity against, you know, these silly situations, or sometimes aggressive, really threatening situations, or just based on the stoke of like, man, you killed that wave. That was awesome. You know, that ride looked great, and it's a beautiful day, and here we all are in paradise. What could be better?
Yeah.
You know?
And few women are often out at that break. So it was, for me, it was like, ooh, who are these ladies charging out here on a decent sized day? I'm
fun.
in.
Oh, that was a great day. That week was amazing. But thank you so much, Tara. This is great, and to be continued. We'll definitely have more conversations about this, and hopefully collaborations in some way, and have a great trip back to Costa Rica. I hope to see you there soon.
Yes.
Perfect. And soon. Okay, all right.